Good morning. It's almost 11:30, and as per the original schedule, it says the session should end at 11:30. So I can simply say the session is over. All of you will give a big clap, and we can go off. And then have a virtual session, which will be more or less on cloud and not on-prem. We started off the session actually today with a cloud-based inaugural, and then we are having the on-prem type of situation. If I were to ask a question here, how many of you are comfortable with attending a seminar in person than virtually? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Almost 50% of the people here seem to be happy with having a physical presence. Uh, since I've had a long exposure in the banking sector, one of the questions that was being asked to me earlier was, will there be virtual banks in India? If you recall, the last, after COVID, it's come down, but before COVID time, the entire focus was on saying virtual banking, where we don't have banks. In fact, the view was that fintechs will upset the banks. I know there are some banker friends here. The fintechs will take over the banks, and banking will be there, but banks, as we know, physically will not be there. But that's not happened. What has happened is that more and more branches have opened in the last few years of banks, and therefore, to my mind, it appears that physical presence of financial services is something which is always look forward or something on which trust is there by constituents or customers. Let me go a little backward before I actually hand over to my fellow panelists. Uh, if one were to look at the way banking or the way financial services started in India, everything was based on a physical person being present. There was no financial service which happened without a person's physical presence, anything you name. Slowly we moved over, and we are now in a space where there are virtual transactions or no physical transactions. There are also physical transactions. What is going to happen? One doesn't know how it will happen. In fact, my favorite example is my father. He's no longer there, but when he was there, the last few years of his existence, he was almost bedridden. But he had his bank account and frequently wanted me to update the passbook and give it to him, telling this much is the balance. He was never satisfied unless there was a red initial on the right side of the passbook. I used to tell him, this red initial, I can do it. How do you know that it is indeed that balance from the bank? But no, that was the trust he had. Now, for me, whether I go to a bank, whether I have a passbook, whether I see it virtually on my phone or whatever it is, it's comfortable. When I ask my son what he says, you're all old people, there is no need for a bank at all. And if there is a need for banking, well, I do it on my mobile phone. So that's what the change is happening. Now, fast forward that to what is happening. The previous session was on mountains of data. Where will this data be? Are we comfortable if this data is available somewhere and we get it all the time? I think the answer is yes. Most of us do access at some point in time a song from a mobile phone. We don't know where that song is there, but we are able to listen to it. And as long as the song comes to us, the original soundtrack by the person who sang it, we are pretty much happy. So if that is how data is going to be stored, why are we talking about on-prem at all? Why should something be on premises? Which is where a lot of times, having been a regulator, I've always been hounded saying that why is the Reserve Bank, or for that matter, the IRDA or the SEBI or PFRDA, why are these regulators or the government always saying that things should be stored in a safe form, that should be seen, that should be visible? Not quite the type of example where somebody was asked to give the documents over post, but at least that something can be seen, something can be felt. So in India, we always like touch and feel. So is on-prem the next thing or is cloud the next thing? I don't want to give the answer, but one of the things that is there is, all of you are aware that the Axiom, the space shuttle which is supposed to take off, has been postponed once again. Why was it postponed? Initially, it was because of weather, which is not in our hands. Now it is on account of leakage of oxygen, they say, which means something relating to a system-related defect is delaying its launch. What if the whole thing was virtual and nobody had to actually see? If tomorrow I say this room can become gravity-free, all of us will be floating in space. Why do we need to go to space at all? So the whole thing becomes virtual. Is that virtual good? Or is that on-prem good? And if it is on-prem, what is this journey towards 2.0? This is what we are trying to talk. And when we talk, it need not be just a technology session. So my panelists, all three of us have decided that we will also relate it to what is happening down in the earth, in the sectors that we represent. And therefore, since the group is very, very accommodative here, we have taken the liberty of saying that it will not just be monologues. We may be requesting you also to participate. So that's the first statutory warning that I've given. So with that, we will start off. Uh, I don't want to go on boring more on that, but I will request my extreme right-hand person, Nishant. He can do a little bit about introducing himself and give a little bit of the perspectives about what he feels is going to be the state of things in this space. So Nishant, over to you. And
Yeah,
after he does, Kiran will talk over from an insurance perspective as well. Yes, Nishant.
yeah, thanks Ganesh, and thanks Manoj for this event. A very good morning to everyone. Uh, I mean, to introduce myself, like I work for Mirae Asset Investment Managers, and I head the AI. Uh, so, like for this topic, like I just wanted to set the context. See, the context here, uh, from what I have seen, based on my experience, in the financial services today. Uh, so the question is not whether we are looking at a particular technology or whether we're looking at AI and we are looking at security. So I would aggregate and abstract everything like into two things at the top, and I think that is true for any industry and more so for financial services. So the real thing which is required, like in a firm today, is your innovation and trust. Okay, the real thing which is required, the conflict which is there in the organization, in the minds of customer, is always between these two. You know, yeah, so it's innovation and trust, and your cloud, your AI. Uh, so these are part of the life cycle. Maybe from 2015, till date, cloud like was a technology. Like AI has started, Gen AI has started. So I will ask one question, to set the context. Like in your mind, so which is the most innovative financial services firm today in India?
Anybody can answer.
Anyone,
And
like why do
nobody's
you?
names are going to be quoted, so don't worry.
How do you rank a firm? Like it could be a bank, it could be a mutual fund, it could be an insurance firm. As a customer, like as an investor, as a customer, like how do you rank them in terms of innovativeness? I mean, anyone want to just take a stab at like which is the most innovative bank today? Say most innovative Indian bank. No, absolutely, and I agree with you. So the question in the mind of customer is not AI. The question is not cloud or AI. See, the question is always innovation, and it has always been there. Like, what is the next innovative product that the bank is launching, or a mutual fund is launching a fund, and so that is where, and I would request banking frontiers, to have that rank, collect that information from all, like say all of us, and probably, and we should be publishing that, like which are the top 10 most innovative banks. Now, similarly, like if I ask a second question, which is the most trustworthy bank, like in your mind? Anyone wants to take a stab?
Yeah. So I was browsing a comparison of SUVs in India. And while I was still studying that, there was a pop-up from a bank which said, your vehicle loan is approved. Click accept to proceed, something like that. And this happened to be one of, very, very trusted bank. So, I mean, this is, to me, a great innovation, and it is also trustworthy.
So the most trusted bank is the bank which gives you funds when you require it at the right time, at the right price.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely. So we all, if you look at it, like we measure a bank or a mutual fund or an insurance firm, like so at a very high level, if you abstract it at 60,000 feet level, so there are only two things, innovation and trust. Now, what is innovation is being able to launch new products at the right time, the products which meet the need of the hour. So there are banks, there are a lot of people in your business team, sales team, strategy team, like thinking of products. They launch products like no one measures, which is successful. Now that is where the real need of data AI comes from. That like So as a financial services firm, do you understand the needs of your customers? Like, do you, track, say, your own customers in terms of the data that you have had for the last 30 years? We had all our banks, ICICI Bank, HDFC, I mean, the new banks have started after 1990, so there's data of 30 years. It's a mine of information which is out there. Uh, yeah, so that is the question, like how innovative you are and how trustworthy you are. Now, if you go to the next level, now how do you get innovative? So to get innovative, you have to build, that sort of an architecture, like within your firm, where you have an architecture where you are able to store the information in a place where it could be interpreted. And I won't talk about the process because I think it was already covered in the previous panel in terms of data capturing and storage and AI. But the real need over here is, see, the shift in the mindset. So I've been in the industry, like in the financial services since 1999. Core banking was built. I was part of the Finacle, say, core building team. At that point of time, the need of the hour was being able to automate your banking tasks. If you are able to process a loan, if you are able to process deposits, you are able to open an account, that was the need of the hour. All your core banking solutions in banks, your order management and trading solutions in mutual fund, their, their core objective was to be able to automate processing. We did that in 1990s, in 2000. We have stored data. The data that was stored, like as part of your Oracle or as part of your on-prem data stores, the data was stored for the purpose of automation and to be able to process online. Yes, that was the goal. Now, what has happened is, like, no one has looked into that data in terms of segregating it, in terms of what is the customer data, what is your alternate data, what is your reference data. Now, those innovations used to happen in Excel sheets. So within a firm like a bank, there used to be analysts who used to, pull out information from Oracle and in their limited capacity, do the analytics around what is the next product to be launched, what is the need. So it was limited to a human sitting on an Excel sheet. Like if you're in the fund management industry, even today, people work out of Bloomberg terminal. The data where only one person can sit on a terminal and do the analysis. You cannot pull that outside into a data lake. Even today, Indian mutual funds work that way. You work on Excel sheets. So your innovation was limited to the capability and capacity of a human to innovate. That is where the industry is today and where we are. Now, what has happened in the last 2 years? So if I ask a question, say in the last 2 years, which has been the app globally which has got the fastest adoption, like in the last 2 years, globally across sectors and industry, like anyone? You're right. You're right. So if you compare it, like if you look at last 20 years, if you look at Facebook and in terms of its adoption, say reaching the first 1 million of user base, if you look at Netflix, if you look at Spotify, your chat GPT has beaten all the apps, phenomenally. Like you can go and like you can Google the stats right now. It took them 3 days to reach 1 million user base globally. So this phenomena is something, it is not that, we are looking into it. The whole world is looking into it. It's a global phenomena. So your analytics that was happening in an Excel sheet, your analytics is now, it is available on chat GPT. Your knowledge of quant is available on chat GPT. Your knowledge of your fundamental analysis is available on chat GPT. So that is the innovation breakthrough which has happened. Now, how do you leverage it within the firms in India is the question. What kind of like ecosystem change and your architecture change and your skill set change, you need to bring in. So that is where we need to evolve from your core banking architecture mindset into an architecture where you are able to pull out the data from your Oracle, your monolithic systems into a data lake. You have all sorts of Snowflake, MongoDB, your Databricks. And there's a reason where you're able to isolate data, you're able to combine them with alternate data, do more research, leverage Gen AI, push the data on, say, new infrastructure. So there are companies, if you're not investing in this architecture, And if you still continue to believe in ki I can have one analyst on an Excel doing some innovation, yes, you may win today. You may come out with some small, say, merchant loan product today. But 1 year down the line, the firm which is invested in the architecture will scale at a very rapid pace because they will understand the needs of India. They will understand what kind of products are required. So they will win in the long run. You will win today. So that is the change that is happening because of innovation. Now on the other side, yeah, I won't take long. Just to close out on the other side of trust. Yes, as I started in the beginning, your innovation can't go without trust, and hence you need to work along with your CISO. Whether it is your CTO or a chief AI officer or a chief data officer. I feel all these names are basically your chief innovation officer, like whatever you call them, has to work with your CISO, which is your chief security officer or say someone who is responsible for your trust or your chief trust officer. Like I would probably call them as chief innovation and chief trust officer. How do they work, say in a two in a box to create the architecture, to create your next gen banking architecture, your like next gen, say mutual fund architecture, where the data is secure, the data is accessible only to those like who have the rights, your customer trust is not misused. So that is the question. If firms are willing to invest and move in the right direction, they will be able to leverage the innovation which is available today in the form of Gen AI. So that's where I would end it, and probably I'll pass on to Ganesh here.
Yeah, perfect. In fact, what Nishant was saying is that use the latest tools, use forward-looking capabilities, but then take that data and process it. Now, are you willing to process the data on the cloud, or you want to have it on-prem? He's not given the final answer. We can't give you the answer now itself, then the session will get over. So I'll request Kiran now to give his perspectives, and then we will see what is the final approach. Over to you, Kiran.
Hey, hi. Yeah, still good morning. So thank you very much for having me on this platform. So I'm Kiran Belsekar. I'm from Bandhan Life. It's an erstwhile Aegon Life Insurance. And speaking from on this topic, On-Prem 2.0, I'm coming from an insurance background largely. And so for us, it has always been, like Nishant said, passionately about the trust and data privacy is a paramount for us. And exactly, it's actually we have to balance it out in terms of the, I will talk about the innovation as well as in terms of data privacy. So we at Bandhan Life been one of the latest in terms of cloud native, the environment what we have really built upon. And it's no more a question about an on-prem or whether it is only a cloud. I think we really cannot neglect when we talk about on-prem 2.0, the cloud as well. So cloud is need to be used judiciously and has to be part of it. So we have seen in the industry where the core workloads, whether it is the record management or the core underwriting or in terms of the actuarial models, which have been on-prem, but we see a lot of innovation happening in terms of customers portal or in terms of distribution portal, the analytics on top of it, the third-party integrations are really taking a movement to the cloud side of it. And that's the way really where we could build in the operational efficiency and speed of it. And obviously, when you talk about data security, data sovereignty, I think it is also taken care of. The hyperscalers are now there in Indian region as well, and most of these services are always available for that. So I think one is the customer experience point of view, and when we talk about the trust, I think what customer is really bothered about whatever you do, but he really thinks about, is my data safe? Mera data safe hai kya? I think that is what which comes in a primary objective when the customer looks at it. So over to you, Ganesh. Maybe we can take the discussion forward.
Sure. Let me now bias you all a little bit. If you look at financial institutions, not necessarily in India, world over, you will find all of them have got big edifices. They are very big buildings. They have great arcs and all that. So if it's a financial institution, the image is that it's a building which is very solid, gives a lot of trust. And that's what we actually started off in the morning. Trust factor is shown by the building. Now we are moving over from trust to saying a whole lot of information or data is what is behind the entire financial flows that take place. Is this data safe? Which was what Kiran was trying to say. We are moving towards cloud. But if one were to say that if it is on-prem, whether it's the data, whether it's the systems, whether it is the hardware, the software, if it is on the premise itself, does it give more confidence, more comfort, more trust to the users? Now, whether the answer is yes or no, one thing I can tell you, regulators, and not only in India, world over, they are always more comfortable if something is verifiable, seeable, doable, checkable on the premises itself. When their auditors, when their inspectors come to see, is it possible to see it there? Boards of the organizations are always comfortable to say, if there is something going right or going wrong, I can visually check and see what it is. So there is certainly a movement towards continuation of on-prem. And if it is going to be on-prem, how are we going to take care of it? Seeing that it is on-prem, also take care of the innovations which are happening, which is what is the challenge before all of us. So I have now biased you by saying on-prem is going to be there. What is going to be on-prem? What is going to be on cloud is the next question. We will have a separate discussion on that. But before we conclude as to whether it is and what we have to do, I'll give again the opportunity to Nishant. He actually excels in talking of two in the box and maybe explain a little more as to how these two within the box or out of the box will actually work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think so on-prem and cloud also can, coexist two in a box. And I will explain the use cases where, where like they both are required. So if you look at the financial services industry today, and I've seen both globally, I've seen Fidelity, I've seen Axis Bank, I've seen JP Morgan. So so if you look at the firms and if you look at various departments, so they are in, different times, like in the life cycle. So there are a lot of use cases today for, for say very simple use cases where you can do your business analytics by using tools with small data, but move away from Excel sheet, for God's sake, move away from Excel sheets or your terminals or, or your traditional databases, like into a database where, or, where you create a warehouse, where you understand, so for people, like they need to get into things like designing a data model, so there is a concept called star schema where like you create your dimension tables. Now, these things are like have nothing to do with cloud. So these things are very basic, which are required for being able to use your traditional tools for analytics, being able to, use techniques, say like clustering, like someone was asking in the previous session that like I have 1 crore customers, how do I cluster them? So if you have an Excel sheet, you will cluster them, based on regions, north, south, west, east, or you will cluster them based on, their income or say 2 or 3 features, and then you will innovate and create a product. So you need to move into tools where you can like cluster them based on say 40 dimensions. So that is where a tool will help you. And for this, you don't need cloud. So for say if your use cases are simpler, if your use cases require you to do analytics, come out with insights, you can continue on-prem. You can continue with small data. You can do a lot more than what you're doing today on your Excel. Now, the use cases for cloud is where you require, computation at a very large scale, where you need to scale up. Like, for example, Gen AI are, so use cases where, like today you are reading your annual reports, say I have a fund and I have 200 companies and like I'm the equity analyst, so I have to monitor like what is happening in all these, say 200 stocks on a daily basis. Gone are the times where I'm going to, keep track of the earning call. Okay, just imagine you have one equity analyst looking at some 200 stocks, for a fund. And you imagine this guy to go and, figure out like all news articles with respect to the 200 stocks, read them manually. When there is a tool of ChatGPT which can process and interpret better than this guy. So no human today, like if you look at a paragraph, so if you look at it, say for the first time, you will interpret it like in a certain way. If you read it again, you will interpret it like in a more better way. Two people looking at the same paragraph will interpret it in different ways. So there is a lot of innovation which is already there, which can be used, for like in areas like equity research, customer analytics, like say complaint analytics was one use case given out in the previous information. I mean, you get 200, 2000 of complaints on your LinkedIn, social media, branch, and there is unstructured content. No human can look at these 2000 complaints and figure out what is the top issue. Look at that statements and figure out what is the sentiment and, what should I solve first. Yeah, so that is where like your Gen AI will help you, and that requires a cloud infrastructure because that is massive computation. So depending on what is your priority, if your priority is to figure out, using like simpler techniques, like analytical techniques, which you have not done in the last 15 years, you don't need, massive like computation. You can like continue to be on-prem. You can just upgrade your architecture, and then maybe like 5 years down the line. But if you're looking at tapping your global innovation, which is already there, I think you can then move on to cloud, which is where you can host your LLMs, you can build your own small language model. So it's a firm's choice, where they want to go and say what they want to do at this point of time.
Fantastic. So it's going to be a mix like the Indian marriage. The husband will be on the cloud, cloud 9, and the wife will be on-prem. I don't know whether that's a right this thing, but Kiran will try to tell you, and then we'll conclude after 2 minutes.
Yeah, so from my perspective, I'd be more biased towards cloud, I would say, because being lucky and getting an opportunity to build something bottoms up on cloud is what I did it in my current stint. And it was a completely bottoms up, cloud native, event driven architecture. And it has really helped from the business point of view. In terms of, we talk about insurance is a very, in terms of onboarding any customer, it's a lot of frictions which come into. You talk about your salary statements to be given, your bank statements, your medical underwriting, financial fraud underwriting. It's a quite a lengthy process. And we were able to crack this up in terms of building a frictionless process, in terms of just taking the 4 or 5 parameters, maximum name, DOB, your PAN, and an email. This 4 parameters just ensures that we could leverage all other 1,000 plus attributes from the various sources. Now we have the account aggregator. So you really don't need to submit any kind of a documentation. So the whole process we could enable using the cloud was zero documentation and zero ops. So zero doc, zero ops is what we call out. And that really made a success. So customer just submit the data on, and we really don't rely on any kind of a PDF or any kind of a upload, because that also happens out to be sometimes in a fraud input as well, because you could really modify it, the PDF files. So that's how the entire journey has come out for us. And obviously, when we have such kind of a cloud ecosystem, plugging in terms of the Gen AI use cases or an agentic AI use cases, or when you talk about the customer servicing, becomes quite easy as well. So I think the whole process has really helped us. So now it is becoming like an API economy. So I'm also a supplier, I'm also a consumer. So it really helps me to really go and engage and plug into the APIs, consume APIs, or also give the APIs in the market as well. So I think that has really, it's only because of the cloud which has really helped. And obviously, as a customer, it really does not matter. It kind of a customer experience is what we are trying to define it for the customer, as well as from a security perspective, Mira data safe hai na. But I think if these 2 questions are done, I think customer is quite satisfied in terms of the experience.
Perfect. So I'll try to close this. Manoj, I'll just take 1 minute. Suppose I were to give a statement here saying that all of us here have got smartphones, and all of us at some point in time have experienced that the capacity of the smartphone at that point in time was not sufficient. Either the storage is full or I'm doing multi-processing and it's not able to do. If I were to say, you don't need to worry about it. All our smartphones are interconnected. So if Ganesh's smartphone has got a problem, it will use the resources in Kiran's phone and it will start working. In other words, all of us can use infinite amount of processing capability in this room by connecting all the smartphones. How many of us would like it? 1. You don't like it. No, how many would like it? Nobody. This is exactly the dilemma between cloud and on-prem. All of us want cloud because basically the IT industry is moving towards cloud. In fact, I remember, because I don't have hair and the little hair that I have is gray. When I started my career in IT, it was all not called cloud, but it was distributed processing is what they used to call. IBM, which is one of the sponsors, used to call it distributed processing of the mainframes because mainframes are very costly and therefore people couldn't afford them, so it became distributed processing. Then it came over to local processing when systems could be afforded. Today, the industry has become full circle, so they say go back to cloud. So to my mind, whether it is cloud, on-prem, etc., these are technology-related aspects. Ultimately, it is data, and if data has to be processed, it has to be processed in a trusted environment. If it has to be processed in a trusted environment, all the 7 layers of trust have to be taken care of. And if that is taken care of, I think the trust factor, which is in the industry, which is what is in the financial sector, will be taken care of. So on that happy note, we will end, whether it is on-prem or cloud, follow all the aspects relating to trust, all the aspects relating to safety, all the aspects relating to security. You will also be compliant with the regulatory requirements. You will also be able to grow. Yes,
Sir,
one quick question.
sir, I have one small question. We decided to shift to the new, migrating to the new software. It's a very branded product. And it was a cloud technology. First time we use that CBS vendor, we decided to go for a cloud technology. But the regulatory authorities, they put lot of question on us. They doubt regulatory RBI, since I think you are from RBI. They put
I'm
lot
used
of
to getting questions. Go ahead.
no, they put lot of question to us, and they said the testing of cloud means some risk factor, lot of risk factor they inform, and they were not happy with the bank decision for migration to cloud technology. Lot of regulatory issue they said, risk hai, ye hai, wo hai, the data is in there, like that. If that is the case, of course, cost-wise also it was as compared to with, but they compared our what you call our vendor with other vendor, the banks where they are not providing on the migration on the cloud. And the cloud technology is now very much in what you call that, very much in demand, or everywhere it is said that cloud is the next generation. Now, what is the issue of the security in respect of cloud?
Okay.
And regulatory authorities, they, because being a CEO of that bank, they raise various, they doubted for, let me say clearly one thing, they doubted about the decision of the bank for shifting to the cloud technology. Why it should so?
Perfect. I got the point here. I'll give the answer quickly. I know Manoj is itching because the next panel has to start. Just 2 points. First is, ultimately, we're working on trust. And since trust is something which has been built over a period of so many years, it cannot be broken overnight. So as a regulator, and this is not only India, world over, regulators are very traditional, they are conservative. So it becomes our responsibility. If I am the regulated entity which is migrating to cloud, it becomes my responsibility to give confidence to the regulator that what I do is right. And in case something goes wrong, I have a fallback resilience method which will be able to take care of it. Possibly if we give it, the regulator will have no concerns. Most cases it doesn't happen. I'll just end up, I know you will have questions. When was the last bank failure in India where depositors lost their money? Any answer? Quick. Madhopura depositors did not lose the money. PMC depositors did not lose the money. They got the money later. They did not get the money when they want, but the money was not lost. Depositors losing the money. There have been problems, I agree with you. They would have got the money after 3 years, 5 years, etc., but they have got the money. I'll tell you when the last bank failure in India when depositors lost the money, it was much before any of us in this room was born. It was in 1956, a bank called Palai Central Bank in Kerala, which was the last bank failure where depositors lost the money. When was the last bank failure in the US when people lost their money? You know, last week. So in India, we have built in, thanks to the regulator, I'm not supporting the regulator, the trust factor has been built in. Now, if on account of data, on account of cloud, if that were to break, then the edifice of banking or the edifice of insurance or the edifice of the markets, which is mutual funds, etc., gets broken. That's why they are a little traditional conservative. So why I took time to tell you is, if we are going into new methods, the regulators are innovative, the regulators support innovation, they have sandboxes. Prove to the regulator that this is good. Second tip is, don't do a big bang approach, go a phased approach. Involve one phase, develop it, implement it, tell the regulator that it has succeeded, go to the next phase. It may take longer, your bosses may not be happy, but the regulator will be happy. That's the trick to work in India.